Neil Diamond, the famous singer-songwriter who wrote hits like America and Sweet Caroline, has been through a hard and sad time in his life. Katie McNeil, Diamond's wife, is now going through a tough and emotional time because of his new diagnosis. Neil Diamond's wife is now saying goodbye after hearing the terrible news about her husband. The couple's private and moving journey through this hard time has shown how deep their relationship is and how much they are struggling together. Diamond has had a number of symptoms that have made it harder for him to live an active life since he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a progressive nerve disorder. Diamond, who has been a major figure in music for decades, and his family, especially his wife, have all been deeply affected by the news. What has his wife done to deal with this bad news? What effects has this news had on Neil Diamond's goals and music career? Let's learn more about Neil Diamond's life. Neil Diamond is one of the most famous singer-songwriters in American history. He was born to a Jewish family in Brooklyn, New York City, on January 24, 1941. His background had a big impact on who he was and how he made art. On both sides of his family, people came from other countries. His paternal grandparents were from Poland and his mother grandparents were from Russia. This information about Diamond's ancestors helps us understand how he was connected to his culture, which often had a subtle effect on his music and work. The parents of Diamond were Rose and Akiba Kiev Diamond. Kiev, his father, was a dry goods merchant, which was a typical job for Jewish immigrants at the time. Neil spent most of his early years in Brooklyn, where his family lived. Diamond's family lived in a number of different places in Brooklyn when he was a child, but he didn't just grow up in New York. The family lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming for 4 years while his father was in the military. Diamond had a strong connection to Brooklyn, where many of his most important early events happened, even after this short move. Diamond's first guitar was a gift for his 16th birthday. It was one of the most important events in his early life. He quickly turned to this instrument as a way to express his feelings and imagination. It was around the same time that he met folk singer Pete Seeger at Surprise Lake Camp, a Jewish summer camp in upstate New York. The young Diamond was deeply moved by Seeger's performance. Diamond realized that he could write his own music after seeing Seeger perform and hearing other campers sing songs that they had written themselves. He became deeply interested in writing songs after making this finding. After thinking about it, Diamond said that making songs was his first real interest as a child. He found that making music not only let him show how he felt, but it also helped him deal with the stresses of being young. Because of his family background, his early exposure to folk music, and his growing love of writing songs, he became one of the most popular singer-songwriters in the United States. Neil Diamond's early attempts at art included more than just writing songs. He also started to write poems. Although he was in school, Diamond learned that writing songs for girls he liked was a good way to get their attention and love. His natural ability to turn words into passionate statements of feeling made him popular with girls he liked and helped him make friends. Diamond's male peers quickly picked up on this one-of-a-kind skill when they saw how well his poetry could win hearts. Soon they started asking for his help and asking him to write songs for them. Then, these peers would either sing the poems or give them to the girls they liked, which usually worked just as well. It became common for this to happen, and Diamond became known at his school as the person to talk to about romantic poems. Diamond worked as a waiter in the Catskills resort area for the summer after graduating from high school. The Catskills is a popular holiday spot in New York that is known for its Jewish culture and entertainment. A lot of people who wanted to be artists and entertainers spent the summers in the Catskills, working or performing at resorts. This gave them practice while talking to tourists. This is when Diamond met Jay Posner, who would become his first wife. Working in the Catskills not only taught Diamond important lessons about life and gave him the chance to meet important people in his life, but it also put him in a cultural setting full of music, performance, and creativity that would be important to his future work as a musician and songwriter. His first stop after high school was New York University, or NYU. He signed up as a pre-med major because he wanted to become a doctor. But his academic path wasn't normal because he was also involved in activities outside of school that shaped his future career. Diamond got into NYU with the help of a fencing grant, and he joined the fencing team there. Diamond's high school years were filled with fencing, and he continued to do well at the sport while in college. He fenced with Herb Cohen and was on the 1960 NCAA Men's Championship fencing team, which was an amazing feat that showed how hard he worked and how skilled he was. Even though he did well in fencing and his pre-med classes, Diamond was bored in class a lot of the time. His love for writing and singing started to take priority over his schoolwork. He wasn't as interested in studying medicine. Instead, he liked writing song lyrics more. As his desire to write songs grew, he skipped lessons and went to Tin Pan Alley, the center of the music production business in the United States in Manhattan. Diamond tried to get area music publishers to hear his songs in Tin Pan Alley so he could break into the business. Even though he didn't become famous right away, this was the start of his deep connection with the world of professional songwriting. He would go back and forth between NYU and Tin Pan Alley, splitting his time between his schoolwork and his growing love for music. Diamond was only 10 units away from graduating from NYU by the time he was in his senior year. But a very important chance came up that changed the course of his life. He was hired by Sunbeam Music Publishing to write songs for 16 weeks and was paid $50 a week, which is about $510 a week in 2023. This was a big deal for Diamond because it was his first paid job as a musician and a sign that he might be able to make a living doing what he loved. Diamond had to choose between finishing college and following his musical dreams. He picked the latter. He quit NYU to start working at Sunbeam Music Publishing. However, this risky choice turned out to be the first step in what would become a famous music career. Career of Neil Diamond. Diamond never finished his pre-med degree, but his time at NYU and in Tin Pan Alley prepared him for a successful career as a singer-songwriter. Neil Diamond had a big loss when his 16-week job with Sunbeam Music Publishing ended. He wasn't hired back. The job, which was his first step toward writing songs for a living, ended suddenly, leaving him without a regular income. But this failure didn't stop Diamond from following his dream of becoming a musician. Instead, it made him more determined to be creative, which is what led him to start writing and recording demos of his songs. Diamond later said that he never really chose to be a songwriter when he looked back on his work. It took over his life and became more and more important to him. Even though there were problems and doubts, writing songs became his main goal. During this time, Diamond's first try at a recording career was with his high school friend Jack Packer in a duet. They were known as Neil and Jack, and their sound was based on that of the famous rock and roll group the Everly Brothers, who were known for singing close harmony. Neil and Jack made a few songs together in 1962, such as "You Are My Love at Last," "What Will I Do," and "I'm Afraid We're Paired with Each Other." "Until You've Tried Love" was played in the background. Even though Cashbox and Billboard magazines gave these songs good reviews, they did not do well in the music business. The music business was excited about Neil and Jack's promise, but their songs didn't do well on the charts, so the pair broke up. Diamond kept going with his singing goals, even though Neil and Jack weren't having much success. He got his first solo music deal with Columbia Records in 1962. Diamond was excited about this chance because he wanted to become famous as a solo artist. Columbia put out Diamond's song Clown Town with the B-side at night in July 1963. The Review and Billboard liked Clown Town, and Cashbox liked both sides of the record. However, the song, like his other releases, didn't do well on the charts. The failure to make money was a terrible blow to Diamond, and soon after, Columbia Records dropped him from their list. When Diamond first started making records in the 1960s, things were not going well. The music business wasn't ready to accept him as a professional artist yet, even though he was talented and his work had been praised by critics. After Columbia dropped Diamond, he went back to writing songs, working both alone and with other artists. Several printing houses. He had a hard time getting ahead in the business for the next 7 years. In the early stages of his songwriting business, Neil Diamond moved around a lot and had trouble making ends meet. He never gave up on his skill, but it took him a long time to get where he wanted to be. Diamond wrote everywhere he could. He often wrote songs on buses and used an upright piano in a small room above a club in New York City called Birdland. He liked how the small room in the jazz club gave him a sense of privacy and quiet, away from the noise of the city below. Even though his life was hard, Diamond found comfort in being alone, which let him concentrate on his songs. Because of the way he wrote songs, Neil Diamond had a lot of problems during this time. His habit of writing songs with lots of words and lyrics did not. Catchy hooks are important in the business music industry. Diamond wrote deep and important lyrics, but this often made his songs less appealing to publishers and producers who wanted simple, catchy hooks that would do well on the radio. The fact that Diamond's style of art didn't fit with what the business wanted made it hard for him to be successful and get noticed in the tough music market. Diamond could only sell about one song a week during these tough years, barely enough to stay in business. He had a hard time making ends meet because he didn't make much money. Sometimes he could only afford to spend 35 cents a day on food, which is about $3 in 2023. His health and financial problems did not stop him, though. The simple room above Birdland became a safe place for him to fully absorb himself through his songs. In this quiet place, away from the stress of constant deadlines and demands from the music business, Diamond started to write songs that were more deeply personal. Neil Diamond started his work in the famous Brill Building in New York City, which in the 1990s was the center of the American music business. 1950s and 1960s. The building was home to many music publishers, songwriters, and producers, which made it a great place for budding songwriters like Diamond to work. In November 1965, his song Sunday and Me, which was a top 20 hit for the pop group Jay and the Americans, gave him his first big break as an artist. However, Sunday and Me was only the start of what would become a much bigger success story. When Diamond started writing songs for the Monkees, his career took off like a rocket. A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You, Look Out Here Comes Tomorrow, and Love to Love are some of the songs Diamond wrote for the Monkees. Diamond wrote and recorded these songs for himself at first, but the Monkees' versions came out before his, which led to a surprising but very good turn of events. Diamond became famous as a singer after these songs, especially I'm a Believer became big hits. It was such a big hit that it became a gold record just 2 days after it came out. It was #1 on the charts for 7 weeks in a row, making it one of the most popular songs of 1966. The song was so popular that it won Popular Music Song of the Year in 1966. This solidified Diamond's status as a hitmaker. The song "And the Grass Won't Pay No Mind" was a big step forward for Neil Diamond as a singer and musician. Some of the biggest names in music at the time were interested in this piece, and Elvis Presley and Mark Lindsay, who used to be the lead singer of Paul Revere the Raiders, both recorded their own versions of it. The king of rock and roll recorded one of Diamond's most famous songs, "Sweet Caroline," which made his relationship with Diamond stronger. Besides Presley and Lindsay, other well-known artists of the time were drawn to Diamond's early work. Diamond's songs have been covered by many artists, including the English hard rock band Deep Purple, the British pop singer Lulu, and the rock star Cliff Richard. Diamond's career took a big step forward when he signed with Bang Records in 1966. Bang Records was a branch of Atlantic Records and was run by the famous producer and singer Burt Burns. This was a big deal for Diamond because Bang Records gave him the chance to start his solo business in earnest. It was his first real hit as a solo act, and it came out on the label Solitary Man. Diamond's emotional depth would become a trademark of his music, and Solitary Man is still one of his most personal and loved songs. After the success of Solitary Man, Diamond put out a number of hits that made him famous in the music business. His track Cherry, Cherry, which was bright and happy, showed that he could write catchy pop songs, and Kentucky Woman, which had a southern sound, showed how versatile he was. Both songs became big hits, which helped Diamond build a reputation as a solo artist who could regularly make hit singles. Diamond started to play concerts as his work as a performer took off, often opening for big bands of the time. In his early appearances, he opened for British Invasion. There were bands like Herman's Hermits and The Who that ruled the rock and pop scenes in the 1960s. Diamond got to know a lot of different kinds of people and improved his stage appearance by playing with these high-energy bands. An especially memorable event happened when Diamond appeared as a guest act with The Who. The Who were known for their loud live shows, which was very different from Diamond's more reflective and poetic style. The band's guitarist, Pete Townshend, was known for throwing his guitar like a club and smashing it against the walls and off the stage until the neck broke. This shocked Diamond. Even though these bands had different styles, Diamond was able to improve his live performance skills while touring with them. These early shows were very important to him as an artist because they taught him how to hold an audience's attention and take control of the stage, even when he was playing with more flashy and violent acts. Diamond is one of the most famous and popular musicians in the world, marked by an impressive list of accomplishments. He is one of the best-selling singers of all time, with over 130 million records sold around the world. Diamond did well in the U.S. Billboard charts are really cool. 10 of his songs have been #1 on both the Billboard Hot 100 and the Adult Contemporary charts. Some of the most famous of these are Cracklin' Rosie, Song Sung Blue, and Longfellow Serenade. These songs, during the 1970s and 1980s, which helped solidify his reputation as a hitmaker. He is best known for writing the song Sweet Caroline, which has become one of the most lasting anthems in American pop culture. When it came out in 1969, Sweet Caroline only made it to #4 on the Billboard charts. Since then, it has become a staple at sports events, parties, and other events and concerts, which show Diamond's lasting attraction. There are 38 of Diamond's songs that have made it to the top 10 on the Billboard Adult Contemporary charts. This shows that he was able to keep making music that people liked for decades. Diamond was successful as a music artist, but he also tried his hand at acting. First movie, the musical thriller The Jazz Singer, which came out in 1980. The movie, which was a remake of the famous 1927 version, showed off Diamond's skills beyond writing songs and singing, but it got mixed reviews. Diamond has won many awards and titles over the course of his long and successful career. He was made a member of the in 1984 Songwriters Hall of Fame, recognizing his important efforts to the art of writing songs. In 2011, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which made him even more of an important figure in the history of popular music. The prestigious Sammy Cahn Lifetime Achievement Award was also given to Diamond in 2000, which is given to musicians whose work has changed the business in a lasting way. This honor showed how deep and long-lasting his work was, since his songs had become classics that people of all ages could relate to. Diamond was given the Kennedy Center Honors in 2011, which is one of the top awards for artists in the United States. The event honored his lifelong contributions to American culture through the arts. Diamond's performance of Sweet Caroline at the event was a highlight, with people in the crowd singing along with the famous chorus. He became one of the most successful and well-respected people in the music business even more when he won the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2018. Neil Diamond has had a successful career, but not only by how many songs he's sold or how many awards he's won, but also by how deeply he's connected with his fans. Neil Diamond's personal life has been just as interesting as his work. He has had a lot of important relationships and a family. A lot of people know about his journey through marriage and family, including both the good and bad parts of his own life. In personal life, Neil Diamond has been married 3 times, which shows how his work and personal life have changed over the years. Diamond married Jay Posner for the first time. They had been friends since high school. They got married in 1963, not long after Diamond became famous in the singing business. Jay Posner, who turned into a teacher, helped Diamond when he was just starting out as a singer. Together, they had 2 children. Even though they had a past together and became close early on, Diamond and Posner's relationship started to get worse as his workload increased and his personal life became more unstable. The stress of Diamond's rising. Their split in 1967 was caused in part by fame and the stress of a demanding job. They got a divorce in 1969. Diamond had a hard time during this time because he was going through both the best times of his career and the worst times of his personal life. On December 5, 1969, Diamond married production helper Marcia Murphy. This was right after he got divorced from Posner. When they got married, Diamond's life changed in a big way, both in your personal and work life. As Diamond's business continued to grow in the 1970s and 1980s, Murphy was an important person in his life and helped him along the way. They had 2 boys together. The marriage of Diamond and Murphy was very long-term, going on for more than 20 years. But like many long-term relationships, it had its problems. By the early 1990s, Diamond and Murphy's relationship started to get worse, and in the end, they broke up. The exact date of their divorce is sometimes given as either 1994 or 1995, which shows how private their split was. Even though they are no longer married, Diamond has said nice things about Murphy in interviews, recognizing the part she played in his life and work while they were together. Now that Diamond is dating Australian Ray Farley, his personal life has changed since his split from Murphy. It was in 1996 in Brisbane, Australia, that Diamond met Farley. Farley was from Australia, and Diamond and Farley became very close, which had a big impact on Diamond's life in many ways. After Diamond's death, they started dating, changes, and started a new part of his life, being there for him with support and company as he dealt with the difficulties of his job and personal problems. Diamond was also dealing with serious health problems at this time, such as severe back pain. He was a lot affected by his long battle with physical pain, both in your personal and work life. His condition caused him a lot of pain and limited him in many ways. It made it very hard for him to perform and make songs like he used to. Even with all of these problems, Diamond kept writing and recording songs. In a big way, the 2008 album Home Before Dark was inspired by. During this time of struggle, Diamond, who was 70 years old at the time, told the world on X, which used to be called Twitter, that he was engaged to Katie McNeil, a 41-year-old TV producer and director. McNeil, who had worked in the entertainment business in different capacities before, became an important person in Diamond's life, both in your personal and work life. Their relationship was the start of a new era for Diamond. It gave him new energy and ideas. In 2012, they got married in Los Angeles in a small wedding with only close family and friends. Their marriage has been known for having a good mix between their public and private lives, with McNeil often helping Diamond with her work. She was his manager and played a very important role. Diamond's friendship with McNeil has had a huge effect on his work as an artist. They worked together to produce projects like the documentary Neil Diamond Hot August Nights NYC. He has been very open about how his relationship with McNeil gave him a lot of ideas for his writing. This is especially clear on his 2014 album. Diamond talked about how his love for McNeil had a big impact on Melody Road. He talked about how being in love gave him an unmatched drive and creativity, which came through in the themes and songs on the record. Neil Diamond has had a great career that has been marked by not only great success, but also big problems, especially in the last few years. Health problems. Diamond's biggest problem in life came up in January 2018 when he was told he had Parkinson's disease. This is a worsening brain disorder that makes it hard to move and coordinate your movements. Being told that Diamond had Parkinson's disease was a turning point in his life, affecting both his personal and professional life. Parkinson's disease is known for getting worse over time. Getting worse, causing signs like tremors, stiffness, and trouble moving and keeping your balance. This diagnosis caused a lot of problems for a performer whose career has been built around his energetic stage appearance and powerful voice. Diamond told everyone that he was going to stop playing after getting his diagnosis. The news came after the last part of his 50th anniversary world tour was canceled. Dates in Australia and New Zealand were on the schedule. He had to make the tough choice to cancel the tour dates because live shows had been an important part of his work for decades. But the statement also made it clear that Diamond wasn't giving up music for good. The reason for the cancellation was so that he could focus on his health and keep working on new music projects, such as writing, recording, and creating new music. Diamond has been open about his battle with Parkinson's disease, talking about his feelings and experiences since being diagnosed. Diamond told it like it was in an interview with CBS Sunday Morning, about how he first felt when he heard the news. He said that he didn't believe it for the first year or two after hearing the news. After being told he had the disease, he fought it. He told his doctor that he wasn't ready to accept it, and that he needed to focus on his work. In his most recent writings, Diamond has talked about how he feels calmer now that he knows what had happened. He has said that this sense of calmness is something that has only happened recently. Diamond compares this sudden peace to a calm that sets in after a storm, indicating a big change from the initial upheaval in his emotions regarding the news. Diamond has changed a lot since she has felt calm. This quieter, more thoughtful time in his life is something he likes, he has said. This calmness has changed not only how he sees himself but also how he talks to other people. Diamond says he feels better about himself and is more willing to help others toward the people around him. Even though he is calm, Diamond admits that accepting his situation is still hard for him. He is honest about the fact that accepting that he has Parkinson's disease is still hard for him. He says it's an emotional fight that he is always trying to get through. Diamond has also stressed how important it is for him to accept and love his flaws while keeping his attention on the good things in his life. He knows there is no fix for Parkinson's disease and that he can't just. He can wish his illness away. When you have a chronic sickness, you have to face and accept the limits it puts on you, instead of trying to avoid or ignore them. Neil Diamond talked about his experience with the new Broadway show A Beautiful Noise, which is based on his life and work, in an interview with CBS. Diamond said that the musical was a form of therapy for him, even though it was hard on him mentally. He felt uncomfortable while watching the show because some scenes made him feel bad, and he was filled with a mix of fear and praise. Because of how the musical showed his life, he had to face parts of himself that were. It was hard to watch, which shows how complicated it is to see your own life acted out for others. Even with these problems, Diamond's involvement with the show gave her a deep moment to think about herself and become more self-aware. Diamond surprised everyone by singing Sweet Caroline on the opening night of A Beautiful Noise. It was one of his first public shows since he stopped touring. This performance was especially important because it showed how well he could still sing and connect with his audience. Diamond said that acting was a peaceful experience in which his body and mind seemed to work together perfectly. Diamond felt satisfied as he thought about his long career and admitted that his life has been very interesting. His presence at the start of the musical and his comments about still enjoying singing show how connected he is to his music and how much it has changed his life. Even though Diamond's health isn't great and it's hard for him to deal with how his life is shown on stage, his link to music and his ability to perform are still very important to him. His thoughts show how much and how long his job has changed both his personal life and his public image. If you like this video, please click the next button and share it with your friends.